Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomenon, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X-Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Welcome to the Imagine More Success radio show with Cindy and Thomas. We're so happy you could join us today. We've got a really fun episode for you today. We're going to be talking about a subject you probably really enjoy, which is listening to the radio. So we're going to guest on a little bit later. Very timely topic, right? Listening to the radio, talking about listening to the radio. I'm actually really excited to be talking about that.
Hey, very astute, Thomas. Love it.
Yeah, we're going to have a guest on in just a couple of minutes. His name is Scott Sullivan. He's a lifelong entrepreneur and a professional salesman. He brings over 30 years of sales, marketing, and radio experience to this interview today. Hailing from the lovely bluegrass state of Kentucky, he's going to be sharing some of his knowledge with us and, sharing a little bit of his lovely personality with a little touch of Southern charm, which is definitely something we're excited about today. So, Scott, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you here today.
Well, thank you, Thomas. It is a pleasure to be here. And hi, Cindy. How are you?
Hey, Sully, I'm doing great, and I can't wait for our listeners to be able to get some of that fantastic knowledge that you have gotten together over these years.
Well, I am excited to talk about radio. I'm excited to talk about radio sales and marketing, and I'm excited to let your listeners know that, as far be it for me to be the expert, but I love sharing my experience.
Well, and being in the trenches really gives you a lot of experience to share what's not in the books, right?
That's what they say. It's you read the books, but my dad said I sent you to college and you ate the books.
Love it.
Well, so Scott, and sometimes that's all they're worth because experience is the true teacher.
Well, we're going to find out.
So, Scott, you spent a lot of time in the radio business, and I know that you have a really cool story that you'd like to tell us about one of your about your station. So take a moment and tell us a little bit about that.
Well, 30 years ago when I was in college, maybe a little bit more, I'm dating myself just a bit, we didn't have, computers and digitized, and we didn't have all these fantastic feeds where you could go across the country in a syndication. We actually played Casey Kasem's American Top 40 on an album that we received every Friday. It came in by courier, and then that album got played in its entirety with its breaks for commercial from someone in an analog studio. So starting in radio back in the very early 80s and late 70s, I got to do things like, go to the production studio and actually make the ad, put it on a cart, put it in the rotation, we sort of wore a lot of hats, and then all of a sudden the digital world came, and you no longer were a big fish in a little pond. The pond was the entire world, and you could reach the entire world with just one person's voice. And all of a sudden, life got different. And then that's when I found out it was a whole lot easier to sell advertising than it was to be on air.
Yes. And so did you do those interesting hand signals that the radio guys did in the day?
Oh my gosh, we did. You are absolutely so true. I mean,
I want to tell you how I knew that, because in the 70s, I went to Chicago because I couldn't wait to see Larry Lujack. And for those of you who don't know who Larry Lujack is, he was the big dog on WLS radio in Chicago.
The Chicago Powerhouse. Yes, I know, WLS. It was one of the strongest. They had both AM and FM, and it was one of the strongest AM signals. You could actually reach it as far away as like Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana. I mean, you could hear WLS, just like they also had 700 WLW out of Cincinnati, and they clashed a lot right about Indianapolis. I know exactly. Wow, you are definitely, I don't want to say dating yourself, but you must have had to have somebody drive you, because you must have been a small child.
I started in the womb, but you know what? You can't beat the music from that era anyway. And the kids today are listening to the 80s music. But what fascinated me was the way they communicated with hand signals, almost kind of like baseball.
Absolutely, because it's like, because you got to remember, terrestrial radio, as we're talking about now, it was all to the second. You had a CBS news feed that was coming in, at 8:01 and 20 seconds, and if you needed to fill that 20 seconds because you couldn't have dead air, so you would have what we called at the time a disc jockey. Would be a person sitting at the control board, and then you would have a producer on the other side of the glass. And they're over there pulling their hair out, as I'm sure your producer's doing right now, going, no, you can't say that. No, you have to stop. Oh, you need 20 more seconds. Keep going. Stretch out.
Well, hopefully Rob isn't that stressed out. But
So, I want to talk a little bit about, how much radio has really changed over the years. I know you were mentioning to us before the show today about how radio started off as very much a local medium where, you could only hear it in your area, being broadcast in your area. And now that's changed. Talk to me a little bit about how that has changed.
Well, I can give you a specific example. There's my wife, being the absolute consummate entrepreneur that she is, a few years ago, an opportunity arose and somebody said, we have this thing called an internet radio. And she says, what's that? I don't think I fully understand what you're talking about. And they said, it's a live, 24-hour a day, 7-day a week radio station. But instead of broadcasting from an FCC signal with a tower that you can only reach a certain geographic landscape because of the power and the height of the tower, why don't we, broadcast it over the internet, and then all you need is a browser to log in, or an app, or you just have to tune into a certain website, and all of a sudden you're getting the same entertainment. And that it sort of became like the Netflix of radio. If you start picking some of those other genres, we call it streaming now. I mean, it's the word everybody talks about. But you can actually get your message out to the world. Well, she ended up talking to this gentleman that had several of these radio stations, and she ended up buying one of them, and it's called InspiredNewsRadio.com, which is a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week talk radio station. But here's the kicker. Because you can niche down to anything you want, it's 24 hours of positive talk radio. We don't put anything out onto the radio station that has, polarizing effect. It's not left wing or right wing. It's everybody human on the planet that wants to talk about something positive. So whether it's meditation or yoga or a better diet or business or success, or somebody that helps in, the insurance business, or whatever it happens to be, as long as it meets the criteria. And our criteria are basically 6 words that we use. But the first is, of course, positive, right? So it has to be a positive program. And the rest are inspiring, informative, educational, or motivational. So it has to fit through that lens. And I tell you, it's been a fantastic ride. So the last year and a half or so, we've been putting out and getting show hosts, and Cindy's been a guest on my show, Mind Your Own Business.
Thank you very much.
Yes, it is. She did a fantastic job. We got a lot of great positive feedback. And the beautiful part about it is your media or your market is no longer the city of Pittsburgh or the city of Chicago or the city of Indianapolis. It's now the globe. Anybody can tune in, and because it's streaming, they also don't have to tune into a very specific show, because it also has that download effect, so that it's almost like a podcast. So if you hear something you like and you want to hear some more about Cindy, you can click on the button and download the whole episode. It's great. It's a fantastic medium, and I got to tell you, it's changing the face of radio every day.
And is this really a kind of opening up obviously like a broadening market, right? I mean, a friend of mine actually was a pirate radio DJ in London before internet radio was here, because he had a message that he wanted to put out there. And of course I don't know what the equivalent of the FCC is in England, but whatever it was, he had to basically, keep away from the communications police so he could get his message out. And now it seems like the messaging has gone, from what's legal to the complete outrageous in internet radio. What are your thoughts about that, about how wide open it's gotten to be?
Well, it started off, if you take here in America, you take some of the shock jocks, and I don't need to name them, you know who they are, but there was a time in terrestrial radio when we started syndication, which meant I would put the show out in, let's say, New York, but then using the internet, I could then bring it to every single other broadcaster. Now, these were real terrestrial radio stations, now I'm talking about, that had antennas, that had FCC license, but what would happen is that the one studio would publish or produce the content, and then through the internet, they would link all of these other stations together. So you could be talking live in New York, and you could be listening, somebody could be listening live in Los Angeles at simultaneously or simulcasting. So those types of things have been around for a decade or so. And what has happened is you had this insurgence of these shock jocks, and it was like, let's see if we can push the boundaries of the FCC. Let's see how, the 7 words George Carlin says you're not allowed to say on TV. And you go through and you say all 7 of them. Let's see if the FCC is going to fine you, right? And then you have a little bit more outrageous, and then they started putting that in combination with streaming video and content that was available on cable TV. So now all of a sudden you had the first time you had a live on-air disc jockey broadcasting on the radio, but at the same time broadcasting on a cable television station so you could watch your radio show, which then that kind of changed the whole genre again. But today, to answer your question, the internet doesn't have that set of rules within itself right now. So you can, the phenomenon is called podcasting, obviously, here, because you can produce something. We call it micro production. So you can actually produce something at your desktop with your own laptop, and you can put it out into the world, and anybody can find it, and anybody can listen to it. And it doesn't matter what your content, what you say. It's all self-regulated, meaning the person listening regulates, and you vote with your mouse. You click yes, I'm going to listen to it, or no, I'm not.
And when we come back in just a moment, we're going to continue this conversation with Scott Sullivan. We're going to hear more about what radio is like now compared to how it was before, but we're also going to start to get into some of the ideas of sales and marketing around using radio to your advantage. So please stay tuned. How would your life change if you could develop the business and personal skills that you need in order to make more money? Do you want to learn how to achieve your big life goals faster? Then go to findhiddenmoney.com and get the Goal for It online course. The course teaches you how you can set and achieve your biggest goals while completely overcoming the roadblocks to your goals so that you can realize your dreams and imagine more success. Go to findhiddenmoney.com.
Has the fear of public speaking stalled your business or personal life? What would you give to develop and maintain supreme confidence? Have an invaluable private program to always perform at your best. Imagine how you would feel. You can have all that and so much more today with Thomas Hyde's life-changing course called Number One Fear Unleashed. Visit numberonefear.com and be liberated from your fear of public speaking. Memorable dynamic presentations are a not-so-secret weapon in the business world. Do you have a powerful message that must be shared, but you haven't found a way to deliver that message? Do you want to be known as a top public speaker who gets amazing results? Are you ready to create and deliver your powerful message? Thomas Hydes can help you create and deliver your speech to get the results you desire. Visit iconquality.com.
Did you expect your business to flourish, but instead it plateaued or didn't get off the ground yet? Would you like to achieve massive goals and discover new sources of income within your business? When you're ready to experience that type of success with fast results, Cindy Hendricks is the business coach for you. Her work with entrepreneurs and business owners has been life-changing. To get you and your business where you want to be, go to imaginemoresuccess.com. You're back on the Imagine More Success radio show with Cindy and Thomas. In our previous segment, we were just talking to Scott Sullivan from InspiredNewsRadio.com, and we were talking about basically the beginnings of radio and how it's started to shift, not just having terrestrial stations that you could listen to on air like AM and FM radio stations, but into the newer genre of podcasts and internet radio. Scott, now that people are absorbing this content in a very different way than they were before, or in multiple ways, what do you find is the change or the shift in sales and marketing that's happened at the same time?
Wow, that's a great question, Thomas. So in the old days of terrestrial radio, where you had a geographic kind of a geo fence around how far you could reach, your target market was, let's see if we can find a restaurant in that location within your broadcast location that fits your demographics. And we had like Nielsen and those guys. And what would happen is we would say, okay, there's 250,000 people within this, geographic area. And out of those, we believe that our demographic is the 18 to 35 crowd, and there's X number. So you can see the analytics that went behind that. And then our job as salespeople were to go to find people that kind of matched that demographic, so that if your restaurant catered to 18 to 35-year-olds, then by gosh, you wanted to be on our radio station because that's where they tuned in. 95XIL, the stack of wax that we play right here every Thursday night just for you. So when we're doing that, we're talking to that 18 to 35-year-old, and then we want our disc jockeys who were kind of famous in their own little pond that they lived in to say, well, of course you want to eat at Joe's Buffet because Joe's Buffet is the best barbecue in the entire place, and that. So we wanted that to translate into, you would get more visitors to Joe's Buffet if you advertised on our terrestrial radio station. So that was the goal, right? And everybody kind of agrees with that. Then now we move into the internet, and it's like, okay, so nobody's going to know who Joe's Buffet is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, if you're listening in Dubai, India. So that kind of changes the entire market. But because we're also a global economy, the whole world changes too. So now we look for people that have digital services or digital content that can be delivered. We look at coaching. We look at people that want to advertise to a global market, people that sell on the internet, selling online, especially services that can be digitized. Those types of services become big sponsors, or very large national brands. There's a Target in almost every demographic, so you could have Target, stores, but there's not a, mom and pop, grocery store that would advertise. So what we're finding is that the podcasters become so niche-y, they get really, really, really niched down. So today on this episode of Mufflers for 1965 Harley Davidsons, right? On that podcast. So guess who you're selling to? Your sponsors are now limited to people that want to talk to those people. And then it's all about the numbers. How many people did you get downloaded? How many people actually listen to your show? So the sales and marketing from an internet radio station are a little bit different because we have two genres. We have the streaming, or we have two ways of getting to the listener. We have the streaming 24 hours a day, and that's because we get the old-fashioned kind of radio that gets bleed over, right? You listen to my show, and then 15 minutes later, Cindy's show comes on, and you just stay tuned in. You don't have to do anything. But if you're listening to an audio book or a podcast, and it gets to the end and it says, "This is Audibles," and then you have to stop, you have to do something, you have to take action, you have to, either erase that book off of your device, download another one. So there's that action that has to take place. So that's two things. One, we want to make sure that our sponsor or our advertising is evergreen within the content of the podcast, or if you're a streaming radio station, you can put it in between shows like terrestrial radio. So it's a little bit of both, and that's how I think sales and marketing have really, really changed over the years.
So it's gotten complex on several different fronts.
Absolutely. And it's not getting any simpler, because now the sponsors especially want to know how many people are downloading it, how long does it stay up on your website, and how long can they find it? Because if I go back to an episode of Cindy's show a year ago and I download it and I hear, well, our sponsor this week is Blockbuster Video, and you go, wait a minute, they've been in business for 20 years, right?
That's really funny.
Sorry, I'm just kidding, Cindy. I
so select well when you're selling advertising.
Well, I think the thing that's fascinating also is that you're actually having a chance to still utilize the potential marketing and sales from terrestrial radio. It's now that the two can be added together. Because you can marry the two. Like this show is both terrestrial radio, and it's also then created as a secondary podcast almost, in that it's recorded, it's available for download. In fact, if you want to check out older episodes, you can go to imaginemoresuccess.net. But that's the thing. We have all these episodes that are archived. So let's say that there is a topic that someone would like to go back and see, or an interview they'd like to see with someone. It's not lost. It's something that's still there. And there's a saying that Craig Valentine always says. It says, what gets recorded gets rewarded. And that was kind of missing before in terrestrial radio. So it's nice to have this secondary almost means of storage, right? To be able to give people a chance to go back and listen to some old things.
It's fantastic, because you probably don't remember, Thomas, because you're such a young man and still in the prime of your life.
Right.
But, we used to record the radio on a cassette tape player over the radio.
What's a cassette player?
Exactly. I knew you were going to say that. But yes, you're right. So, and that's a huge, huge difference, because right now, those are the things that are being rewarded. Because in radio, in the old days, in terrestrial radio, once it was spoken, it was lost. It's gone. It's gone forever. And we used to have this is going out to Rob, your producer right now. We used to have a button on the microphone that when you would key the mic to talk, it would actually record it, because that's how you made your demo tapes to send to other radio stations when you were trying to find a job.
Right.
Because they didn't care about the songs in between. They wanted to hear what you were saying in between.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting because now it seems that, and please comment on this, it seems that now that we're moving away from a single terrestrial type radio towards internet radio and then back again, it seems that music seems to have less of an impact on sales and advertising. Is that true?
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, you're right, because it's all about the topics of conversation now, especially on talk radio. But see, that's because the music genre has also changed along with us, right? I can now say, Alexa, play, the golden oldies, and she'll say, do you mean the 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s? So it's like so I have almost every song ever produced at my fingertips. Spotify on my device. I don't have to remember when our devices used to have to be filled with songs. Remember when a playlist was a stack of 45s on a turntable?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That was a playlist. You would go through your 45s and you would find 10 of them you wanted to hear, only the A side, because nobody ever listened to the B side. And you stack them up on a record player, and you put the little arm across and you push the button, and you just got 10 songs on your playlist. And they were all analog, coming across as a record. And now I can grab a playlist and I can change it on the fly, and I can listen to it just about everywhere, just about everywhere. And that's changed the way we are, because now, tuning into a country radio station or tuning into a hip hop radio station is almost like, why do I want to do that when I can have the same songs on my device with no commercials and no DJ talking at all, just song after song after song, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why you're seeing the DJs being forced back into the clubs. And I love this. I love the new genre where you're seeing DJs come back into the clubs, because now you're getting personality. See, when I tune on to Spotify or Alexa or somebody else, or any of my Prime Music, and you play 20 songs, you're not getting any personality other than the artist that puts into the recording. But if I go to a club, I feel that. I feel his commentary. I feel what he says or she says, and how they mix the songs together, and how they put in little snippets of other songs on top. All of a sudden, there's a new energy and a new feel, which is what you used to get from the radio when the disc jockey would say, "It's time to turn so you don't burn."
Right.
So, so those are the things that we're missing in these digital world that we live in, because that personality, that emotion, that feeling. The reason to tune into a radio station was because of the disc jockey, not because of the genre of the music. I mean, Wolfman Jack, for example, he played the same songs almost every night, but his personality came through. And talk about pirate radio. Right,
yeah, definitely.
Now, we were having a conversation, Thomas, last week or the week before about some of the changes for podcasters, that they're going to now have to follow some more rules like terrestrial radio. Do you know anything about that you could share, Sully?
Well, we're actually, right now, I am speaking to you live from Orlando, Florida. I am calling in today, and I happen to be at the podcast movement. So my wife and I are actually here at the largest podcast convention in the entire United States. And we are in Orlando, Florida right now, and the activities start first thing in the morning. And I will get back to you on that, because there's an entire legal track that we're going to go to and talk about. But there are big sweeping changes coming from the federal government. They have decided that this is a genre that they can't just allow to run willy-nilly. So we don't know exactly what those sweeping changes are going to be, but I have heard things like, restriction and also like the music having some self-labeling that says this program contains content that may be found objectionable, and things like that. Because
yes,
yes, but I can't.
And we're going to come back to that in just a moment. When we come back in the next segment, we actually want to pick right up where we just left off there, where we're talking about potential regulation of the entire podcast market. And so stick around. We'll be right back with the Imagine More Success radio show. How would your life change if you could develop the business and personal skills that you need in order to make more money? Do you want to learn how to achieve your big life goals faster? Then go to findhiddenmoney.com and get the Goal for It online course. The course teaches you how you can set and achieve your biggest goals while completely overcoming the roadblocks to your goals so that you can realize your dreams and imagine more success. Go to findhiddenmoney.com.
Memorable dynamic presentations are a not-so-secret weapon in the business world. Do you have a powerful message that must be shared, but you haven't found a way to deliver that message? Do you want to be known as a top public speaker who gets amazing results? Are you ready to create and deliver your powerful message? Thomas Hides can help you create and deliver your speech to get the results you desire. Visit iconquality.com.
Did you expect your business to flourish, but instead it plateaued or didn't get off the ground yet? Would you like to achieve massive goals and discover new sources of income within your business? When you're ready to experience that type of success with fast results, Cindy Hendricks is the business coach for you. Her work with entrepreneurs and business owners has been life-changing. To get you and your business where you want to be, go to imaginemoresuccess.com.
Has the fear of public speaking stalled your business or personal life? What would you give to develop and maintain supreme confidence? have an invaluable private program to always perform at your best. Imagine how you would feel. You can have all that and so much more today with Thomas Hyde's life-changing course called Number One Fear Unleashed. Visit numberonefear.com and be liberated from your fear of public speaking.
Welcome back to the Imagine More Success radio show with Cindy and Thomas. In our previous segment, we were just speaking with Scott Sullivan from InspiredNewsRadio.com. We were talking about how the government is looking into regulating podcasting. Scott, I know there's a huge movement, of course, to kind of protect the internet from regulation. Is this kind of a movement which is also, I guess, gaining ground and traction in podcasting in particular?
Well, Thomas, I don't think it's actually gaining ground. That would be. I think we're going to, in the freedom of speech. So, being able to express ourselves as Americans has sort of been a, inherent, right that we have all long clung to. So I think what you're going to find is you're going to find something similar that happened in the music industry, where the largest of the production companies, the largest of the publishing companies, the people that are actually, are putting out the content for podcasters, the hosts, if you will, that are buying the server farms and buying the bandwidth and putting it out there. I think they're going to be forced at some point to be somewhat self-regulated. They're going to have to come up with some kind of scheme that they send to the government and say, look, we'll put warnings in front of the shows if they're using this type of language or if they're talking about this, just to protect younger viewers, which is that's where it'll come from. It'll come from the fact is that the internet is open to everything. And I think it's pretty much, if you take the same tact, if you look at the adult film industry, you look at the music industry, they were all kind of started by, let's see if we can protect the youth and the younger generation, and then, by doing X, whatever it is. And it'll be some kind of self-policing. But here's where I want to go with that. Whatever happens, however that happens, I want to talk about the fact of the positive side. We have gone from the FCC dictating, literally dictating to when you can broadcast, what you can say, and where you can go from a public airwaves to I can put something out about anything I want if I feel strongly about it. And everybody, I hate to say everybody, but all the shows are self-regulated. Because if I put out a show about, picking lint out of my dryer trap and nobody listens, then what impact does it have? Right? So it's sort of a self-limiting kind of, positiveness. The best part about it is that in the old days, if I wanted to, start a chain letter with everybody that raised a certain breed of dog, then I had to, it took a lot of work and effort. And now I could have a podcast every week talking about my little Shih Tzus that we breed, and the people that listen have a natural affinity because they also want to be part of, the breeding process. So I think it's more positive, a lot more positive than it is negative.
Okay. Well, Sully, don't you think there's a little parallel in our new computer age with all the issues that Facebook has faced because they were totally unregulated to what we're doing now in our world with podcasting in the same situation. And I think it's raising a lot of flags.
Right. And I think it's just sort of, it's when until it gets to everybody's living room, right? It's sort of like, when you have to, anyway, and I'm not. I don't want to derail the conversation, but I use the adult film industry. But if you used to have to get dressed, get in your car, drive to a theater, find some place that was showing that type of film. Put your cash down, buy a ticket, and sit in the back row, right? Whereas today, it's on every device, anywhere, everywhere. So I think that once it got to a size where it was almost ubiquitous, then the federal government or then the people. I don't even think it's actually even the government all the time. I think it's general people in public standing up and saying, guys, we have to do something. It's in every one of our living rooms now, right? So I think that's sort of it's an indication that we've finally arrived as an industry. And I hate to say that because it feels like I'm being negative, but I'm really not. I'm saying is finally we're taken so seriously. You got to regulate us. Now, come on, get on board.
And this is probably something that happens over and over again. You see this every single time there's some sort of massive paradigm shift, right? When it comes to communication or publishing or anything where there's mass communication.
Right, exactly. And I think you've hit it right on the head, Thomas. But I want to stay in the very positive vein of this, is that almost any human being with a computer and a really good microphone and a little bit of coaching from me can start their own podcast. And if you've got a message that needs to be out in the world, that needs to be heard, there are now venues, whether it's your local internet farm that'll sell you a little bit of bandwidth, or it's companies like Inspired News Radio that will actually host your message, or it's companies like, pick any of the big ones, and Blueberry and Spotify and all the guys, Apple Tunes, iTunes, all of those guys out there are gladly take your money and put your show up, and then it's up to you to go find the listeners. Now you have to go find the listeners.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. Once someone's made the decision, let's say you've decided that you have a message that you want to share with the world. You start a podcast, you put it out there, you have it up in multiple locations. Maybe you even take it to a terrestrial radio station like we have here on XZBN network. Once you've done that, what's the conceptual part of advertising at this point? Once you're there,
marketing, and a little bit more marketing.
Okay.
Because it's like anything else. You have a voice shouting into the dark, Thomas. I mean, so I'm standing up on the mountaintop in the middle of the Arizona desert at midnight, and I'm shouting out to the masses, and nobody can hear me. But if I do that often enough, and I tell enough people about it, there'll be people start coming at 11:30, and then 10:30, and then there'll be acres and acres of people, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, if my message is resonating with them, right? So It's no different than building a church. It's no different than starting a business. It's no different than being a political, candidate for any office. It's that you have to find something that resonates with the people that you're trying to, and then it's just marketing, and just a little bit more marketing.
So it's real estate on the airwaves.
Sort of. That's it. Location. So you get a message out there, and then you take to the other airwaves. You do shows like yours and say, hey, I've got a message and I want to be part of this, and then you start finding people that are flocking together. So if your niche is cars, then I'm sure there are probably 100 podcasts about cars every day. So then you start flocking together and saying, guys, we should start our own network of cars. We want to be Oprah of cars.
And I've seen that as well, in some of the early podcasts, the highly successful podcasts. That's definitely how they did. They were all together, kind of like-minded people who are all doing podcasts that were very similar. They kind of got together and promoted each other's shows. And I think that's, conceptually, is that something that you are in agreement with, or something that you think is still powerful today?
100%. If anybody out there, if you're listening to me right now, and you are doing a podcast, whether you have one listener or 100 million listeners, my podcast show is not your competition. We are not competing for the same set of ears. That is not the case at all. Apathy, not going on to podcast. There's 700,000 podcasts at any given time out there in the airwaves, and still only 2 or 3% of the United States population regularly tunes into a podcast. So it's not. The numbers are astronomical where we can go with this. It's where I am not your competition. Cindy and Thomas are not your competition. We should all be banding together, because if you are promoting a different podcast, and I tell people on my show all the time, man, you should be listening to Cindy's show. It's fantastic, because you need to be imagining your success. I can't teach you that, but you can learn that from Cindy and Thomas. You see, you're not my competition. You are my colleague. You're my, you're the other side of my yin and yang, because I want people out there to first embrace the genre, which is podcasting and internet radio. And then secondly, find where you fit, and find your tribe and stick with it.
And that's funny, because it's really finding your tribe is what happens for the people who are putting the podcasts out there, who are creating them. It's also what they're doing when they're marketing to the people who are listening. it's also about creating a tribe amongst the people who are listening as well. So it's kind of twofold tribe building.
Absolutely. Yeah. You wouldn't be putting out, people that are vegans, and you wouldn't be promoting your, hey, this is my sponsor this week. It's all 100% ground beef, No, we're not doing that.
Right.
So know your audience. I mean, that's no different than every marketing that we've ever done in our life, no matter who it is. So know your audience, find your tribe, and then also, appeal, I don't want to say appeal or cater to. I want you to, you really need to listen. And that's why I love the internet now and podcasts, because we can get instant feedback. I can go to your website right now and I can leave a message, for Cindy and say, hey, I loved your last week's show. Boy, I wish you would talk about this. And guess what? I just gave you content for next week's show.
Well, what we're doing actually is sending them to our page and sending them to our Facebook page for Imagine More Success Radio, so they can do exactly that and ask our guests questions.
Oh, well, excellent. See, that's exactly what you need to be doing. Is you need to be having that positive feedback. So I love, one of my shows that I do on Inspired News Radio is a show on sales and marketing called Sales with Sully, and I have a internet presence, meaning my Twitter, my Facebook, and my Instagram are all at Sales with Sully. So the @ Sales with Sully. And every week I get tons of feedback, and there's nothing better. It's like in the old days when you used to call into the radio show and the radio disc jockey would say, hey, we've got Thomas on the line. And you would say, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah.
Boy, do I remember those days.
Yeah. And then you would say, hey, could you play Jack and Diane for me by John Cougar? And you're going to say, who's John Cougar? Oh, you mean John Mellencamp? Yeah, sure. We could do that.
Too funny. Well, we're going to come back in just a minute. We're going to talk not just about the old days of radio. We're going to continue talking about the future when we come back on the Imagine More Success Radio Show with Cindy and Thomas.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Did you expect your business to flourish, but instead it plateaued or didn't get off the ground yet? Would you like to achieve massive goals and discover new sources of income within your business? When you're ready to experience that type of success with fast results, Cindy Hendricks is the business coach for you. Her work with entrepreneurs and business owners has been life-changing. To get you and your business where you want to be, go to ImagineMoreSuccess.com. How would your life change if you could develop the business and personal skills that you need in order to make more money? Do you want to learn how to achieve your big life goals faster? Then go to findhiddenmoney.com and get the Goal for It online course. The course teaches you how you can set and achieve your biggest goals while completely overcoming the roadblocks to your goals so that you can realize your dreams and imagine more success. Go to findhiddenmoney.com.
Has the fear of public speaking stalled your business or personal life? What would you give to develop and maintain supreme confidence? Have an invaluable private program to always perform at your best. Imagine how you would feel. You can have all that and so much more today with Thomas Hyde's life-changing course called Number One Fear Unleashed. Visit numberonefear.com and be liberated from your fear of public speaking. Memorable dynamic presentations are a not-so-secret weapon in the business world. Do you have a powerful message that must be shared, but you haven't found a way to deliver that message? Do you want to be known as a top public speaker who gets amazing results? Are you ready to create and deliver your powerful message? Thomas Hides can help you create and deliver your speech to get the results you desire. Visit iconquality.com.
Welcome back to the Imagine More Success radio show with Cindy and Thomas. In our previous segment, we were just talking to Scott Sullivan, who is from InspiredNewsRadio.com. Today, we're talking about doing business at the speed of sound. We're talking about how radio has changed, how marketing for radio has changed, and how sales for radio has changed. In our previous segment, you were talking about your show called Sales with Sully. It's a show for sales professionals. Tell us a little bit more about your show.
Oh, Thomas, thank you so much. And Cindy, thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it. One of the things I wanted to mention as we were starting to wrap up that last segment is that I wanted to just finish the thought I had on marketing before I answer your Sales with Sully question. That is, if you are a business owner now, if you are spending marketing dollars, there is no better way than to do it on internet radio and podcasting, simply because you do reach a global audience. I want to tell people today, the message I'm bringing is, radio's not dead. Everybody talks about, well, why would I advertise on radio? Because today's radio is not your grandpa's. This is not your grandpa's radio. This is today's radio, which is if you have especially a market in a larger market, if you're not just in your own backyard, you can reach literally hundreds of thousands of people. And you talked about target marketing. If you want to talk to people that are in the dog breeding business because you have a certain product or service that fits into that, there are probably 100 podcasts today on dog breeding. So you can get to the very specific listeners to very specific niches. So, hey, advertise on Cindy and Thomas's show today. Call right now and say, hey, I want to be a part of that new momentum.
I love it.
Hey, I'll find him a
Thanks
dog
for the
breeder.
plug.
But to answer your question about Sales with Sully, so my 30 years of sales and marketing experience, I bring in a kind of a whimsical way. I take comments. We were talking about how, when you would call into a radio show and say, hi, this is Thomas, long-time listener, first-time caller, and then you would say, would you play me this song or show or whatever? And that's what we do on Sales with Sully. I take all of your comments on @SalesWithSully on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram. If you just type in @SalesWithSully and you say, hey, I'm having trouble closing in this demographic, or I'm having trouble prepping or planning for this sales call, or I'm still using PowerPoints. What do you think about PowerPoints? Or I'm thinking about advertising on the radio. What do you think I should do? And then I craft a show every week for 30 minutes, and I answer those questions. And then what happens is that I tweet you back and say, Thomas, tune in to August 10th show because I'm going to mention your question, and then I know for sure I have one listener that day.
That's pretty awesome.
And then I give you a shout out and I say, this comes from Thomas because I know this is your Twitter handle @StudMuffin123.
Well, at least you got the Twitter handle right.
Yes, I got the Twitter right.
I was going to say, how do you know that about him?
So, and then I shout out back at you and say, Thomas, thanks for your question. And here's my opinion, right? And it's all about opinions. And then unlike how you can do it where you have the live call in and then you can actually have a conversation and record it, I do everything on a kind of a day behind. So when I do the show, I look at the Twitter and the Instagram and my Facebook feed and I craft a show around that. And then I shout out to those folks and say, hey, thanks for the information. You're helping to make my show prep a whole lot easier is what happens.
That's really cool. Really love that idea.
Well, we had the Facebook down, but Instagram and Twitter, we hadn't gotten there yet.
Well, the president, unfortunately, is keeping Twitter alive. So
yeah, really.
So everybody's got to be on Twitter now because they got to find out what's going on.
Yeah, but we won't go there today.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're not doing that.
It's really fascinating when you look at how two-way the conversation has become because of the additions of these other medias to radio, that now there is more back and forth. I would assume, years ago, what you had to check the mail every single day to see if you had gotten a letter from someone that you read if you wanted to find out, what their opinions were or what questions they had. And now you can get up to the minute, up to date in a moment, whether it's from your Twitter or from maybe a Facebook message or an email.
It can be instantaneous if you're doing semi-live, right?
Yeah.
If you're doing a 5-minute delay, you can actually have your Facebook up at the same time that you have your show up on your laptop, and you can see it happening. Unlike Casey Kasem's long-distance request where they have to send in a letter and say, I'm missing my boyfriend who lives in Chicago, and we had a brief encounter on a bus on the way to, the motorcycle conference.
Right. That's so funny.
I think you need to start writing some of those novels people read.
No, not at all. But I got to tell you, though, the way that radio is changing, everybody talks about, it's how sometimes change is bad and they shouldn't, they don't embrace it. I say absolutely embrace it. Grab a microphone. They're $59. Yeti has some great ones. Samson has some great ones. You can spend anywhere from $50 to $150, $200 on a microphone, plug it into that USB port, and start telling the world your message. And then get a hold of Rob, because he'll produce your show and put it out on the airwaves for you.
And he does such a great job.
Yes, he does. He does, absolutely.
So that's part of the reason why a lot of people don't like to do this kind of a thing, because it is complicated. And if you don't know what you're doing, and if you're not a technical wizard, it is kind of complicated just even getting Blurberry figured out.
Okay, well, then I'm going straight to here it is, my unabashed, I'm just going to do self-promotion, shameless self-promotion right now. Just go to inspirednewsradio.com and fill out the form. I have a podcast coaching class. I'll give you 3 one-hour sessions, and I will teach you to be a podcaster. I can take any human being with a voice, and I can teach you in 3 hours how to get your voice out there, and I'll give you the resources you need for intros and outros and commercial drops. I'll even help you find sponsors and do the whole thing. And just for one small price, I think it's only $399, and I'll give you 3 one-hour sessions, and Inspired News Radio will put you on the air.
Wow, that's a great offer.
Yeah, it really is.
Really love that.
It is complicated.
It is, and you get a guy with 30 years experience. He knows his way around a control board, and we've got engineers on staff. We've got marketing specialists. We actually have 5 people at Inspired News Radio that are just ready, willing, and able to help you promote your podcast. We have a full-time web designer. We have a full-time social media expert that she puts out all. If you ever go to Inspired News Radio and look at all those great things that are going on, and Susan, who is our program owner and manager, she just absolutely crushes it. She does a great job on keeping everybody in line and putting out the great content, just great content. And if you want a respite from the political world, just go to inspirednewsradio.com and listen to any show for an hour, and you'll feel better.
Oh yeah, that's for sure these days, right?
Yep.
That is something that we always want to do here on Imagine More Success Radio as well, which is always bring a very positive message and also be uplifting. Do you find that has more value than people typically give it credit for, especially when they're starting out a podcast or a radio show?
100%. It's easy to be polarizing. It's the way I tell people all the time, the way you build an audience is be polarizing, because if you just go on, but what you're going to get is half of your audience is going to hate you and the other half is going to love you, and there's going to be very little common ground. So it's going to be a fight every time you get on the radio. It's like going to Boston and saying, I'm a Yankees fan.
Yankees fan. I knew you were going to say that.
And, it's like standing there on the street corner and saying, you guys ought to be wearing pinstripes, and and all. It's just going to be a fight, right? Whereas if you want to build long-term listeners, if you want to build people that are part of your tribe, not trying to tear you down, trying to lift you up, and people that will share, people that will retweet you, people that will that will share your message, that will share your link to other people that they care about, then you need to be in that uplifting. And I think the long-term effects are 1,000 times more beneficial. You want to build a quick audience, be polarizing. You want to build a long-term, loving audience, be positive.
Great. I think that's great words of wisdom, and thank you. Really appreciate that. Scott, you also have a great giveaway for the listeners today. Take a moment and tell us a little bit about that.
Well, if you are in any business right now, if you have a business and you are struggling with marketing and pulling things together, I have the 7 steps of advertising on within podcast or internet radio. So 7 steps to being successful on advertising, absolutely free. All you have to do is go to Inspired News Radio and say, hey, I heard Scott on the radio, and he's giving away this. It's not really a book. It's more like a pamphlet or a paper that we've written, but it gives you the 7 easiest steps. And they don't have to be on Inspired News Radio. It can be anybody. It's the things to ask for. It's the analytics that you can get from today's world that we live in. How do you find your niche? And then how do you negotiate a better contract? How do you negotiate, instead of, paying $200 for that banner ad, why not get the banner ad along with a few radio spots, or maybe get a host position where you actually get to be a guest on the show and you get a banner ad, right? So I help you go through that whole process, and we're giving that to anybody right now that wants to have additional information on how to advertise and be part of this new world that we call podcasting and internet radio, and it's available at inspirednewsradio.com.
What a great offer, Scott. Thanks
Beautiful.
so much.
And we would
love
to help, and part of that is the success story of what you guys are doing. I mean, I love lifting you guys up. I was on your website this morning, and I was telling people, I said, Cindy is she's got magic. She's got sparkles coming out of her face.
Exactly. Scott, thank you so much for joining us today. It was such a pleasure to have you on today. Thanks for sharing your message, not just about radio, but about changes in sales and marketing. Very insightful today and very informative. We really appreciate it.
Well, Thomas, thank you so much. And Cindy, you're just a dream come true. I imagine success every day, and you're always that topic. You do a great job.
Thanks,
you so
Sully.
much.
Right back at you, guy. Hope to see you on the show again soon.
And I'll keep you updated at Podcast Movement. We're going to be here all week. If you're going to be around, hey, stop by Orlando. We're here.
Cool.
Sounds perfect. So if you want to check us out next week, please listen to us again. We're going to be on the XZBN Broadcast Network, of course, with Imagine More Success radio show with Cindy and Thomas. And do check us out also at findhiddenmoney.com and imaginemoresuccess.net, where you can listen to past episodes.
Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomenon, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X-Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.